I saw the meeting as a despicable display of bullying by the President of the United States and the Vice President of the United States.
I think he was cornered and he was bullied in the Oval Office. And Margaret, that just makes us look weak.
Either it was an ambush setup or they just got so hot-headed, the president and the vice president, that what happened happened. You know, it's the chaos of this presidency.
So it is absolutely shameful what is happening right now. The White House has become an arm of the Kremlin.
Senator Chris Murphy, you can't even take him seriously. He just thinks he's going to raise money by going after Trump. Democrats bringing back their old tactics after President Trump and Vice President Vance's Oval Office clash with the Ukrainian president on Friday. Zelenskyy here to discuss it, Fox News contributor Joey Jones. And Joey, we could talk about the war, that's another thing, but the attack on the president, the White House, on JD Vance is something else that emerged after we spoke.
Yeah, it's really puzzling to me. I guess the intellectual honesty has kind of left Congress at this point, and the divisiveness of bipartisanship. You're just trying so hard to grab onto money or support from whatever organization, Act Blue or MoveOn.org. You're just trying to say something sensational to go viral. There's no way that a reasonable, responsible person who's been elected to represent this country thinks that going on national television and calling our vice president a coward, our president a puppet of Putin, is helpful for our country.
Right. Here is a former Marine, Seth Moulton, who I thought had a pathway to being the Fetterman on the right after he was blitzed for saying that men should not play in women's sports. But he didn't. He went right back left. Watch.
The President of the United States is a coward who is Vladimir Putin's puppet. And the Vice President of the United States is a pogue and a coward who is Donald Trump's puppet. And so what we just witnessed was a meeting in the Oval Office between two cowardly puppets and a hero.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. You know, you said former Marine, and usually as a Marine we say, hey, listen, we're not former Marines. Once Marine, always Marine. We formerly active duty, and it's a point of pride for us. We carry that. It's on my collar every time I come on this network. What bothers me so much about the way Seth Moulton handled this, number one, pogue is a very intentional word. It means person other than grunt. So what Seth Moulton is saying, he said in 2014, actually, just about a year ago, he said that JD Vance, in describing him, he said that he was a combat Marine, and he goes, oh, I mean, actually a combat cameraman. In other words, he said he's a Marine Corps veteran, and he says, oh, I mean combat cameraman or a combat journalist. And so what he's trying to do is trying to denigrate JD Vance's service. But to sit there and call him a pogue, person other than grunt, maybe he doesn't understand this. Seth Moulton, I'm a pogue. I'm a person other than grunt. I wasn't infantry. I hope that my service doesn't come across as cowardly to you. I hope that you respect my service. You served with Brian Mast. He's a pogue. He wasn't a grunt. He lost his legs. I watched Brian Mast recover with his hands sewn to his stomach. So I don't know. It's a very intentional word. Up until World War II, it was used to describe homosexuals. So maybe he's a historian and he's trying to be trying to attack him in that way. I don't know. But Seth Moulton needs to understand that every female Marine that served in combat, was injured in combat, or killed in combat prior to 2012 was a pogue. They were a person other than a grunt. And it just bothers me that we have a Marine Corps officer in Congress, regardless of what his policy positions are, that doesn't have the honor, the courage, the commitment, the integrity to sit there and take issue with J.D. Vance's policy position, take issue with the outcome that may come from the policies that he and President Trump make. You can't find an intellectual argument to tell the American people why they're wrong. You have to call them stupid names like pogue and coward. I would never call Seth Moulton a coward because it takes absolute courage or complete stupidity to go on live TV as a Marine Corps officer and call another enlisted Marine who's risen to vice president a pogue and a coward. That takes some sort of absolute stupidity or courage. I don't know, but I wouldn't call him a coward. And to call J.D. Vance a coward and to try to denigrate his service that way, it blows my mind.
Pretty amazing when you call the president a coward. He was just shot, got up, and what he did, and every day that he got up, as after a second attempt, he still wanted the job. He stared down prison sentence for a year and a half. And the other thing is, did he ever call out Joe Biden for scripting the biggest disaster in American history?
You know, I'd love to know how much Seth Moulton cares about those 13, mostly Marines, that were killed at Abbey Gate. I would imagine it's not a topic he broaches very often, and that is borderline cowardice, if you ask.
Right, but he gets him booked on CNN again, so maybe it's a success. Maybe
Let me tell you something. It takes anything but a coward to sit in that White House and know the blowback that's going to come, but to make a call and to say specific words like J.D. Vance and President Trump did, that put us in this situation now because they believe there's a better outcome for them. Even if you don't agree with it, it's not cowardice.
Great points, Joey. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Great to
brother.
see you.